Hi, everybody. Welcome to Prax with Kride. I'm recording this during the times we're having the fires up here in Northern California. And luckily, I'm in Sonoma, so I'm about an hour south of all the fires up in Windsor and Healdsburg and that area. So we've been fortunate to have power so far, and I'm grateful for that. Anyway, today's practice with K-Ride, I'm going to demonstrate and show you how I'm changing my warm up based on watching Emannual Puhad give a couple of demonstrations. I saw him on a short, kind of an advertisement trying to get you to buy his whole series, and I also saw him on a YouTube. But basically, what I had been doing was first of all overtones, and I would do these with the metronome and hold them out longer. Then try and get the notes just as clean as I could. Anyway, the idea, which was good, was to get airstream reaching up in the higher parts of my oral cavity to get those top notes, to get the high G and the high B flat, which I did. But what I didn't do, which watching Emannual has made me aware of, is take that concentration of air up. He calls it his wasabi spot. So you're trying to feel it high in your oral cavity, high in your nasal cavity, and take that and apply it to actual notes. So I knew from the overtones what I should be doing, but I didn't think to take the next step and apply it. So what Emannual says to do next is go through every note and find the center or the core of the note. So you're playing every note for about one breath, and you're trying to feel that wasabi spot, feel keeping that air pressure there. And it's interesting, I'm finding that it's harder to do it as I go low on the instrument as opposed to high. So you say he starts on G and goes down, and then G and goes up. So here's G. So this is like opposite of the way I was playing before. Before I was playing the note and adjusting the note based on the sound, and now I'm playing the air pressure and the note changes on its own, if that makes sense. So it's not so much a focus on the note, uh, hearing it, it's a focus on the right process to get the note. So here's F sharp, and I'm trying to feel that air pressure as high up in my nasal cavity as I can. And he says between the eyes, the wasabi spot. So what I'm doing is consciously seeing where is that air hitting in my mouth and trying to move the air pressure to that spot. Because his contention, and I agree with it, well, of course, how can you not agree with Emannual Puhad? But he's saying that your lips are just for dynamics and for intonation, that your airstream is your tone. So your lips are not defining your tone as much as the air pressure and where the pressure is in your mouth for the tone. And I'm a little sharp, so I'll pull out in C sharp. Now, as I'm going lower, I find I have to kind of increase the air pressure to keep that wasabi spot feeling happening. So all the way down to the low part of the horn. What's interesting about this also is that when I move into scale work after this, I've now shifted the focus from notes, right fingers, time. I mean, I do all those things anyway, but my main focus is on keeping that airstream happening, that pressure, and that automatically translates to prettier lines. So I'll go a G up a little bit. And what this does for me here, I've felt and I've heard an opening of the notes, if that makes sense. Now I'm really feeling it in the right place. So I'm doing this quickly for the sake of time, but I would do one breath on each note, and I usually have a metronome clicking, so it might be 10 counts, it might be 12, it might be whatever. But my focus is strictly from a tone standpoint, strictly keeping the pitch the right pitch, but it's strictly on feeling that sense of air pressure, which I did feel extremely with harmonics, but I kind of threw that away when I started playing regular pitches. Anyway, so after that he does technique work, and I've had many teachers talk about this. You want to do some kind of a scale study every day and some kind of arpeggio study. So what he's done is Taffagill and Gilbert number 4 for a scale study, and then I think number 10, which is a 2 octave every possible chord from a chord tone. So starting on low C and doing every possible triad you could do off that low C. Anyway, I'll do some of Taffagill and Gilbert. He says cycle through it. You don't have to play the entire thing every day. But the change that he suggests, which kind of makes sense, is to play it as musically and as beautifully as you possibly can. And this is different than me just going, I mean, just putting on the metronome and going click, 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 and locking in. I mean, I've done a lot of work where I'm going. So I was doing what I thought I needed to do to lock the time in, and the notes are correct and the intonation's good and the tone quality's okay. But his deal is make it beautiful, and when he plays it, it sounds, and it's funny because I heard this many, 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 many years ago when I was playing trumpet. I had a buddy of mine that was going to Indiana University, and he would play an arpeggio, just simple, and just that arpeggio was gorgeous, and I realized, oh my God, you know, it's a great practice to play as beautifully as you can, even if you're doing technique work. All right, so let's go back to my F major scale. And he says, change your arpeggio, change your dynamics, change your rhythms. So I'll change it. I'm going to try and make it pretty, and I'm going to try and keep that feel, that wasabi feel in my sinus cavity. And I just chose that rhythm at random. But to do more of this, the study itself, I'll try and make it pretty. Now I've already forgotten. I've gone back into lock, 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 lock time wise, and I've gotten away from making it really beautiful because these are all habits. I think more than anything else, a warm up. Yes, you are warming up your breath support. You're warming up your fingers. You're warming up your musical conception. But more than anything else, you're instilling habits that hopefully will transcend all of your playing. So in this case, I want to get back to playing something beautifully and not just lock, lock, lock technical work. Um, there was one other aspect I wanted to talk about. Let's keep doing this a little bit. Yeah, and the other aspect is I have found that keeping my focus on the wasabi spot, the breath control, actually has increased my technique. And I think it's probably obvious that if you have better support and better response for wherever you're going, the faster that's going to happen. So, anyway, so that I've noticed that. Now, mistakes was he I've heard many different ideas on this, but he says something which seems pretty doable. He said, yes, you're supposed to get the metronome higher and higher, but if you do find you make a mistake before you go higher, play it 3 times correctly within the passage. So suppose you're having a problem on uh, and I have to remind myself over and over, make it pretty, make it pretty. Just don't play an exercise. Let's say for the sake of argument, I made a mistake there. Before I go back to the beginning and crank the metronome up a notch to get more speed, he would say, go through it 3 times. So 3 times, then you can continue on. And that's a good rule of thumb because I've had some teachers say play it 10 times right before you go on. I've had one teacher say if you have a mental block on a certain note, play it 50 times right. And she got that information from one of the principal flutists in Sacramento Symphony. Anyway, a lot of it depends upon what you want to try and get done and your amount of time. So that's Taffagill and Gilbert number 4. That's a scale exercise. Um, then from that, he talks about using an arpeggio exercise. This is Taffagill and Gilbert number 10, I believe. Yeah, it's number 10. It's on page 34. I'm going to do it. And once again, I'm cycling through it. So I'm not going to stop at the beginning and go all the way through it. I'm picking a portion that I actually want to improve. Now I'm going to do the A flat, and that for me is tough. So I'm going to slow it down. And once again, I'm trying to make it beautiful and trying to keep my air right there in the wasabi spot. And this is totally different. Like my old way of practicing would be strictly lock time, halfway decent tone, try not to make flubs. And now it's more make music, and feel that air pressure. 2, 3, 4. So now it's not even about mistakes. It's about play it in a way that's musical. So, yes, I'll slow it down, but it's not so much that I made a mistake. My mistake was I stopped playing it in a very musical fashion. Okay, slow it down. So now I've hit a technical area that I really need to spend time on. But it's such a mental shift for me having watched Buhad. It's like normally it'd be like, okay, that's good enough, go on. Or yes, I made a mistake, but I'll speed it up anyway. And now it's now my gatekeeper is no, you didn't play that musically. You didn't play it beautifully. So it's not okay to move on until that's beautiful. Not even it's not even correct and not even locked in time and as if you're playing your exercise, but it's not a beautiful piece of music. So that's a change that I felt just watching Puvad. So this is more than enough information. I hope this is useful for you. By all means, watch his. The video I watched was on intonation, I think, more than anything else. But he discussed all these things that he's doing as a warm up. So I find this very useful. I'm going to do this for a while. I'm not currently studying with a teacher, so I'm going to use him, use his ideas as what I'm going to use to progress. And it makes perfect sense to me because my needs aren't playing orchestrally or playing in a band. My needs are improving my flute chops for the solo and duo work I do with jazz. So my main concern is playing musically and building scale and arpeggio chops to be able to do what I want to do. Plus, I do play in some duets and trios classically, and that's a lot of fun. But those are my needs, so that's why I'm angling toward lots of chop work. The last thing he does recommend, and it's not in the Taffagill and Gilbert, I think it's Reichardt number 4, and it's a scalier, it's a passage that has um, it kind of weaves with an in and out the scale, and it's really pretty. But it's the third thing he recommends. But these are his three ideas. I mean, you could pick your own scale etude work, you could pick your own chordal etude work, and you could pick your own melodic fragment work, basically, for lack of a better word. Anyway, I hope this is useful. Thanks for coming to practice with K Ride on flute, and I hope the fires are going to be out soon up in Windsor. Take care.